Today, Almaty videographer Balzhan Baltasheva sets off on an unusual journey. For a long time, she has been dreaming about plunging into the wild nature, but didn't know how to take the first step. The destiny at last provided her with such a chance as Alkenay Timov, a famous traveler from Astana, offered her to take part in a ski trip in the Kent mountains. Although a little scared thinking about it, the brave woman accepted the invitation right away. The Outdoor KZ film crew will keep an eye on Balzhan in the course of her adventures without interfering in the events. Central Asia has been attracting adventurers since the times of Marco Polo. In their notes, medieval mavericks filled this semi-mythical area at the world's end with fantastic creatures and unprecedented miracles and riddles. To this day, this mysterious region attracts Western tourists with its landscapes and biological diversity. Together with the Outdoor KZ TV expedition, you will travel to the most picturesque corners of Central Asia, get acquainted with its flora and fauna, and immerse yourself in the everyday life and traditions of the people living in the wild. Yesterday, Alkenay Timov from Astana called the office of the Outdoor KZ permanent TV expedition and told us that the Karkarala in the Kent mountains descended from the highlands to the mountain mid-range, making it suitable to try to catch them on camera. In order to reach the actual location, we will have to take an extreme ski trip. Balzhan Baltasheva has agreed to accept this challenge. Our midpoint destination is Astana. I myself will film the event and ensure the overall safety of the group. It's the first time for me to take part in such an expedition. A little scared, but I hope it will all work out. Goodbyes to the friends. Everybody is a little concerned, as it is not every day that someone you know embarks on such an adventure. Tomorrow you will be in Astana, and Alken will meet you there. I really don't know what you're going to do with all this luggage. The agitation takes over the fellow travelers. Oksana and her husband going to Astana to see the parents. They are shocked to hear what Balzhan is about to do. It seemed unreal stuffing all these things in here, but thanks God they all fit. And where are you going? To Astana, and from there to Karkarala Nature Reserve. Alken will meet us there. He's a traveler and has all the necessary info. I will meet him for the first time as he just found me on Facebook. We will be shooting a TV program. They gave me all these things. Yeah, you've got a whole load of stuff. I don't know how I agreed to do this. Poor you. Whereas in Almaty the temperature was about 0, in Astana it is minus 25 Celsius. It looks like Balzhan has wrong clothes. Alken is late. A traffic jam? What if he doesn't come at all? It's silly finding yourself in a strange city, not knowing anybody and with a load of stuff. Here he comes at last. Thank God. It is slightly over 200 kilometers from Astana to Karaganda and then another 200 to Karkarala, which makes it 400 kilometers total. The expedition arrived in Karkarala late at night. Early in the morning, in the office of Karkarala State Nature Park, the team is receiving the final instructions and necessary approvals.
The
Karkarala State Nature Park is one of these special protected areas in the Republic of Kazakhstan. Our main goal is to protect and expand the natural wealth of this unique region. 190 vertebrate species live on the territory of the park. including 5 redbook species. The main one of them is the argali. At present, the argali population of the park exceeds 350 heads. They mainly inhabit Beldotas, Karkaraly and Injede-Sakal mountains. The main purpose of national parks and nature reserves is nature conservation, but their approaches are different. Whereas nature reserves are established to protect certain reference locations from humans, national parks, on the contrary, are there to make sure that their guests enjoy communing with nature without imposing severe damage on it. On the one hand, environmental tourism and wilderness observation bring income, and on the other hand, represent resource-saving and friendly types of nature management. Thus, development of eco and educational tourism constitutes to be one of the main objectives of all national parks. Having examined the international experience of tourism development, we came to the conclusion that first of all we need to create our country brand. We need to present and advertise Kazakhstan as a tourist country, a huge and interesting tourist destination. Expedition tourism is a rather new version of adventure tourism. It's based on human aspiration to experience the severe adventure romanticism and desire to learn more about the surrounding world in all its completeness. Modern travelers want to feel themselves pioneers and not mere vacationers, more like researchers and not simple tourists. Today, a photo from a jungle where no man has gone before will blow the Instagram much faster than a glam shot from a 5-star hotel standing on a tropical seacoast. Did you know that there are 2 types of survivors, proppers and bushmakers? What about the beshbamak makers? At first, educational tourism seemed a game or a marketing trick, but gradually it became an increasingly significant source of investment into nature protection efforts, and today even starts to play an important role in scientific research. The huge army of animal watchers are not only popularizing the idea of nature conservation, but are also collecting valuable science data. With time, many amateur naturalists even become professional field scientists. They write books and do nature shootings. We are now in the office of Karkarala State Nature Park, getting preliminary acquainted with its fauna in the park's science department, where we can encounter and film this or that animal and get, as they say, the most representative videos of argali and elk. It's not the best season for that, but we will do our best. Igor Vintonyak, the park's deputy head for science, and Shamil Sharipov, the park's head for science, tell the members of the outdoor KZ expedition about their forthcoming route. So we have talked over all the details of the upcoming trip. We will go to the Beldotas Zoological Wildlife Reserve, located behind the Kent mountain massif. Before the journey, the members of the outdoor KZ expedition decide to spend several hours sightseeing in Karkaralinsk. The name of the place goes back to the legend of the beauty Bayan and her wedding headdress decorated with black eagle owl feathers. Such attire was called Karkara. In 1824, the district center of Karkaralinsk was established here, and the small town tucked in the steppe oasis became known far outside Akmola region thanks to numerous famous scientists, artists and culture figures. We came here to photograph wild animals, but to be in Karkaralinsk and not to visit the house where Abay Kunanbayev lived and worked would be an inexcusable mistake. In the 20th century, this house, which is also called the Bekmetov house, belonged to a famous Karkaralinsk merchant, Haliule Bekmetov. Earlier in the second half of the 19th century, Abay Kunanbayev often spent time here, literally Only 300 meters away from the house there is a mosque built by his father. At present, the Bakhmetov house hosts the Regional Department of Culture. Under the condition they let us in, we will come in to have a look at it from the inside. In this very room spent time, lived and created his great works Abay Kunanbayev, the great Kazakh writer. Karkaralinsk has a lot of old buildings more than 100 years old, where famous travelers and writers lived and worked. Take, for example, the house where Grigory Potanin lived in the 19th century. We have only 2 hours for sightseeing in Karkaralinsk. It is by far not enough because there are so many places of interest. In this house, for instance, in 1909, Mikhail Prishvin wrote his famous Karkaralinsk series of literary sketches and stories. From these series of works, we are most interested in the sketch called The Agali, because we are also about to embark on our own search of these animals. Inside, there is nothing special about the house. It looks like an ordinary library in spite of the fact that it is 100 years old. The Karkaraly oasis represents the northern suburb of a large mountain system stretching for hundreds of kilometers from the west to the east. The rocky summits of Kent, Bakhta, Koshubay, Botas ridges remind of an island archipelago in the midst of the boundless sea of the Great Steppe. Mountain tops of up to 1500 meters height are visible from afar and have been catching the eye of travelers and researchers from the most ancient times. In wintertime, pine forests provided fuel and covered travelers from the cold wind, and in summer the shady gorges were the best place to hide from heat and water horses. The expedition heads towards the Kent Massif, described by Shokan Velikanov in 1864. Local hillsides are covered with pine-lined forests, and the river valleys are trimmed with inundated deciduous woods of birch, aspen, willow and poplar. The Owl, or village of Kent, is located at the foot of the ridge. Here the expedition specifies the route with game manager Sergali Kanafin and continues on its way to Beldotas Nature Reserve. The area has the official status of the Zoological Wildlife Reserve. Here comes the Beldotas cordon, where the group will meet Inspector Askar Mukashev. Askar Aga has been living here for decades and knows each and every footpath in these mountains. We could hardly find a better local fauna expert. How far is it from here, from Beldotas to that summit over there? Approximately. About 15 to 17 kilometers. Is there a direct path? If so, we could cut a couple of kilometers, right? I wouldn't risk it. But there is not that much snow up there. Could we maybe follow the ridge top? Okay, then we will wait for you here on the Akiya River. Agreed. 12 kilometers, about 3 hours to go. To walk 12 kilometers you will probably need about 5 hours. If we all agree, you will depart in the morning at sunrise. We will meet you in 3-4 hours at the meeting point over there, so we have another 1 to 1.5 hours of daylight to reach the cordon. What if you are late? The final test drive before the mission. The sheepdog Joly is no professional draft dog, but looks like she's dealing with the task quite okay. In any case, the children are quite happy with their new vehicle. Go, 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 the sheepdog. Go, Joly, go. Alkan and Baljan gather their stuff, adjust and check the equipment. They have a tough challenge before them, skiing for 12 kilometers in the wild mountains. Not to mention that it all has to be filmed on video. Maxim and Daskar Mukashev prepare the snowmobile, a much more comfortable and quicker means of traveling. So let the quest begin. At first it looks like a splendid and easy walk in a fairy tale-like winter forest. Nothing difficult, at least at first glance. Just walk and enjoy the surrounding beauty. The snow is not deep, so there is no real need for skis, but it's better to use them than to carry on your back. Going uphill turned out much harder than skiing on an even surface. Alkan is tunneling the way through and is forced to wait for Baljan. Morning is the coldest time of the day. Stopping for just a minute and the frost strikes you to the marrow. The warm clothes make you sweat, leaving the only option of very short but frequent stops. And here come the first local residents. In Karkaraly Park there live two hare species, white and brown. The white one is extremely hard to notice in the white snow. Joly is a city dog. She sometimes rides children in the country, but this is the first serious expedition for her too. And a real endurance test. It looks like she likes this severe and extreme distant mission. While Alkan and Baljan take rest, Joly is demonstrating her access feelings and strength the best she can. Just a couple more steps to the pass, but they are the hardest. I didn't think it would be so tough, but as they say, if you pledge, don't hedge, right? In the steppe mountains, it is possible to encounter extremely different landscapes. Forest-covered slopes and steppe-like plateaus, rocky sides and riverbeds, inundated woodlands and gorges plucked with light shrubbery, mountain summits and ridges blown over by gusting winds. Usually there is much more snow on northern slopes than on southern ones. In some places, the wind is so strong that it simply blows it off. It looks like our heroes noticed somebody, or maybe vice versa. There is something or somebody behind the pass. Something flashed between the grey rocks. Over there, bend down, bend down. Take off your red scarf. Lower, lower. I don't see anything. Do you see the crow? Left of it. There are two argali. Oh yes, now I see them. Indeed, these are the famous Karkaraly argali that Prishvin wrote about. Even if these images are the only ones that Baljan and Alkan yield from the trip, they will have a lot to share and to remember. But it looks like they intend to creep even closer to the argali. Joly, there will be argali there. Baljan will stay here in this depression, and you and I will try to carefully crawl up closer to them, okay?
Я с детства смотрю фильмы о животных.
I've been watching movies about animals since childhood. For example, the BBC's National Geographic, and always dreamed of photographing wild animals. I don't like the fact that today our children know about giraffes and bowhead whales more than our own fauna, snow leopards and argali. I am sure that no one of my friends has ever shot a video of the argali. According to the most recent records, about 17,000 argali live on the territory of Kazakhstan, including 7,000 in Karkarala region. They belong to the central Kazakhstani subspecies, which in Latin is Ovis amonculium. In total, 5 argali subspecies live in Kazakhstan, the most numerous of which lives in the central Kazakh hammocks. Good dog. Good dog. We have filmed the argali. Let's look at the video. How good it came out. For over 30 years already, the central Kazakh argali has been listed in the Red Book. During this time, their population has stabilized and even increased in some areas. Scientists believe that in the near future this species will fully recover and its existence will no longer be under threat. And then people will again be able to rationally use this valuable animal. Population monitoring is an extremely important element of the efforts to preserve the mountain rams. Scientists carry out the counting of argali population as well as determine the sex and age composition of their herds.
Фронтальными учетами охватить невозможно всю весь ареал обитания.
Frontal counts are insufficient to capture the full habitat area of these animals, as it is simply huge.
Также были
It is too expensive to do that.
показательные учеты.
Aerial counts are not very indicative either, but in some model territories where there are hunting management sites or say in especially protected areas, monitoring efforts are more or less effective and proper. So based on this data, the population of central Kazakhstani argali, Ovis amonculium, is steadily expanding.
Находится в стабильном развивающемся состоянии.
All done and dusted. The argali have been filmed. Alkan and Baljan can descend to the agreed meeting point with a sense of accomplishment, although there is still a long way ahead of them. While Alkan and Baljan are struggling through the snow-covered plateau, Maxim and Daskaraga cross the woody Kent Mountains on the snowmobile. The area of about 1,000 square kilometers is full of shallow gorges overgrown with pine, birch, aspen and willow. Here one can encounter not only the argali but also marals or Siberian stags and even elks. You won't surprise northerners with an elk, but it is an exotic animal for Almaty residents. Moose traces are numerous, but it is really hard to meet a live animal this time of the year. Maxim and Daskaraga covered more than 100 kilometers before they managed to see a large elk at a distance. Of course, they wanted to creep up closer to the mighty animal, hoping for a better view. Hiding behind the trees, they slowly move along the slope, carefully scanning its opposite side through the binoculars. The elk slowly moves in the rare woods, stopping from time to time, cautiously inspecting the valley. From time to time it appears on forest edges and then disappears in the thickets. In recent years, the moose population of Karkaraly National Park has grown and the animals started to spread in neighboring areas. No doubt, encountering this majestic animal will make any journey a success. In wintertime, it becomes dark early in the mountains, so Oskar and Maxim should hurry up to meet Alkan and Baljan. Maxim stays in the meeting point to wait for the ski group while Askaraga goes to meet them. The last meters are succumbing especially hard. First Karkarala takes Baljan and then goes back to pick up Alkan. The camp is set on the forest edge. Despite being tired, nobody wants to sleep. What better place to discuss the previous hikes, adventures and interesting encounters than around the campfire? Do you know how to make a fire without matches or a lighter? Stone? No, in the winter the stone will not work, but a magnifying glass can. And I'm not talking about a regular magnifying glass made of glass, but of ice. You can polish the ice with your palms to make an ideally smooth curved surface like a magnifying lens. And it will be enough to refract the sunbeams. The only condition is that the sun must be in zenith. It won't work in current weather. By the way, what will we have for breakfast? Manti, pilaf and lagman. Come on, really? Of course not. It will be porridge. Do you want some porridge too? Okay. We need to hurry up. We have only 1 hour before midday and we need to walk another 5 kilometers and climb to the ridge. The team has a hasty breakfast, packs up the camp and starts on its way back. The plan is to reach the Akia winter camp by the evening. The lion's share of today's journey will go through the woods. Dozens of streams and small rivers flow down from the mountaintops, merging into the Nura River. In some places, the river stream freezes over and the water flows over the ice. Such places are called Kızıl Su, and one needs to be very cautious passing them. The woods are streaked with dozens of heron, fox and sometimes even marral and elk tracks. The rocky crests of ridges tower over the forest-clad slopes. From distance, the mountains seem impassable, but our travelers go through them almost effortlessly. 5 more kilometers to go. We only need to get over the crest and we will reach our destination. Our doggy is tired too. Okay, should we go? We had some rest and now don't have much distance left before we reach the top. Alkan and Baljan have already seen the Argali and today they hope to meet Marals who live in the mountain forest belt. Once they were quite common in the Karkaraly mountains, but turned a big rarity in the late 19th century due to excessive hunting. At the end of the 20th century, the state had taken a series of actions to recover the Maral population in the Karkaraly oasis. Initially, the animals were brought from other regions to a special nursery and then released into the wild. Now every fall you can hear the Maral mating song in the Karkaraly woods again. Alkan and Baljan did not suffer in vain and got lucky once more. They encountered a Maral herd consisting of 8 animals. The second day of the hike seems not as tough as the first one. Perhaps the group has adapted to the conditions in the wild, or maybe it's just easier to walk in the forest than across the snow-covered plateau. Joly is especially happy. Its internal wolf is waking up at last. The intended route is covered and the expedition is almost finished. Before departing, the members of the outdoor KZ team decided to pay a visit to the bison nursery. The experiment of semi-free breeding of American bison has been going on for several years now. The animals feel themselves perfectly fine in the severe climate of Karaganda region. Perhaps sometimes, if the experiment is a success, these shaggy giants will enrich the local fauna. On the one hand, it was a great opportunity to test myself, and on the other hand, it was great because I learned so many new and interesting things about Kazakhstan. The outdoor KZ team is leaving the Karkaraly Nature Park. The journey came out quite successful. Our lead characters have not only tested themselves in extreme wild nature environment, but have also encountered many wild animals in their natural habitat. The expedition plans to return here in the spring when the Argali will have their offspring. In the meantime, we will hit a couple more fascinating locations and face new adventures. Come with us!